like to potty train an 18-month-old toddler? Hi guys, I'm Cara, I'm mum to 21-month-old Ben, and I make videos about being a toddler parent twice a week, so make sure you're subscribed if you're not already. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about potty training. We potty trained Ben when he was 18 months, and I know that perhaps lots of people are thinking about potty training early at the moment because we're all spending extended periods of time at home because of COVID-19. So I thought that in today's video I would share my honest experience of how it's gone for us, the good and the bad. I'm going to be talking about why we decided to potty train him early, how we did it, what products we used, and ultimately whether or not it's been successful for us. I'm also going to be sharing the pros and cons that we've experienced of potty training early. So let's get started. So why did we decide to potty train early? Initially, this was definitely not our plan, but around the age of 16-17 months, Ben actually started to tell us when he was going to the toilet in his nappy. Now, he is a pretty verbal toddler, but also he was in cloth nappies, and I think that's what had the most to do with it. In a cloth nappy, the moisture isn't necessarily whipped away just as quickly as it is in a disposable nappy, although they are still really absorbent, and I think he could actually feel the sensation of going to the toilet far more and become aware of what was happening. I also made a video a few weeks ago about our cloth nappy journey, so if that's something you're considering, then I'll make sure I link it here and below in the comments for you in case you want to check that out as well. Pretty much from birth, we talked to Ben about what was happening during his nappy changes, and this is something that I would definitely recommend no matter when you plan to potty train, because it meant that when it came to him needing to tell us that he needed to go, he already had the vocabulary in order to do that. So when Ben did make it obvious to us that he was aware that he was going to the toilet, I panicked a little bit because in my head I thought that if he was aware that he was going to the toilet and he considered it normal to do that in a nappy, that further down the line it would become much more difficult to potty train. So I kind of panic bought some potty training equipment on Amazon, I ordered a book, I did some online research and pretty much thought, okay, let's give this a go a little bit early. I was also potty trained at 18 months, so I generally knew that it was possible, and I also wanted to embrace his interest and the fact that he was obviously in a little bit of a sensitive period for learning to use the toilet. So how did we decide to potty train? Please remember that today I'm sharing our decisions and what worked for us, but everyone has very different parenting styles, and that's totally okay. You have to do what works for you. In general, we try to avoid a reward-punishment style of parenting because we want Ben to be intrinsically motivated in everything that he does. So what I saw as the more traditional way of potty training, perhaps using a sticker reward chart or chocolates every time that he went to the toilet in the potty, wasn't hugely attractive to us. I also wanted to try to avoid using pull-ups or training pants. Because he was so young, I was worried that that may become a little bit confusing for him. I wanted to go all in and try and make it as quick a process to potty train as possible. I saw the oh crap potty training method recommended in some Montessori Facebook groups, and I decided to order the book and give that a go. It really resonated with me in that using the toilet should be seen as a normal part of everyday life and should become that for your toddler, and also that consistency and commitment are the path to successful potty training. And for me, this totally makes sense that such a huge event in your toddler's life should need so much support from us. So the book says that the ideal potty training age is 20 to 30 months, but there are chapters in the book dedicated to potty training children who are younger or older than this. It does say that training a younger child is definitely possible, but that it will take longer, and it gives 3 signs of potty training readiness. Initially, I was a little bit worried because Ben was only showing one of the 3 readiness signs in that he was able to communicate his needs. So I actually joined the unofficial Facebook group for this book. I posted asking what people's experiences were of potty training at 18 months and also what kind of signs their toddlers had been showing, and I got lots of success stories back, so that's what made me decide to go for it. We're also lucky in the sense that Thomas and I are both self-employed, and we're the ones who spend the majority of the time at home with Ben. When we are both working away from home, it's our family members who look after him, and they were 100% on board with the idea of early potty training as well. I know that the situation would perhaps look a lot different if he was in nursery. They might be reticent to potty train at such an early age, but we were in the position to go for it. If you are thinking of potty training using the oh crap method, I would definitely recommend getting the book. I am going to be talking over today some of the main points, but that's definitely no substitute for the full plan that's in the book and also all the troubleshooting notes and things like that. I also would recommend joining the Facebook group. The first chapters of the book focus on getting you ready for potty training because it suggests that you are the most important factor in its success. After experiencing potty training at 18-month-old, I would definitely agree with this. The day we started potty training, I was a stressed mess, and this had a huge impact on the success of potty training. It was only when I took a little bit of a step back, I chilled a little bit, I accepted that potty training would be a longer process, that we actually started to see progress in Ben's potty training. The early chapters also talk about preparing your child for potty training, starting to talk about the fact that nappies will soon be a thing of the past, and also starting to help them manipulate their own clothes so that ultimately they'll be able to independently use the potty. One thing which I thought was really profound is that she mentions how illogical it is that we tell children to pull their trousers down, because in fact what they need to do is hook their thumbs into their trousers and push, so that we should actually look at the wording of things and introduce the idea of pushing down your trousers right from the start. Before we started, I also put together a little bit of a plan for my husband and got him on board as well so that we could tag team potty training. Before we started, I pretty much only ordered the basics. I ordered this chair potty, which is great because Ben can independently get on and off it himself. He actually still struggles with a standard lower potty because they're so low. We need to give him a hand to get on and off. I also ordered a normal potty, which we could have in the car or in backpacks and things like that for when we were out and about. I ordered both of these from Bambino Mio because we used their reusable nappies and I really enjoyed them. In general, the potties were fine, but in hindsight, I would have probably made a slightly different decision. And that's because at the front of the potty here, this part is not really high enough for boys, or at least not for our boy, because quite often the pee comes shooting over the top. And I would definitely look for something a little bit higher to try and keep that in. The recommended potty in the book is the Baby Bjorn chair potty. In hindsight, it does look higher and that would perhaps have been better, but I was actually at first a bit reluctant to spend £30 on a potty. Then we were pretty much ready to go. The book talks about 3 stages of realisation, so toddlers starting out being completely clueless about all things toilet related, then they start to become aware when they're actually going to the toilet, and ultimately they'll become aware that they need to go to the toilet. The book sets out a plan of how to potty train using blocks, starting out with a naked toddler so that you can watch for their cues and also see when they're going to the toilet and pop them straight onto the potty. Then once you see progress and they understand where they go to the toilet, you can introduce trousers, and then ultimately, once that's mastered as well, underwear. This totally makes sense. It does mean that your toddler might be commando for a little while, but pants do feel more like a nappy, so the idea there is also to avoid any confusion. I have to say that we didn't stay in the commando phase for too long, and that's because Ben was used to wearing cloth nappies, which are much bulkier, so pants just didn't seem to confuse him that much. So what was our experience of potty training an 18-month-old? I innocently thought that Ben would be potty trained over the course of a long weekend. We'd taken some time, we were committed, we had everything we needed, I'd read the book cover to cover, but in reality it was much more stressful than I had imagined. Now, in hindsight, I had pretty high expectations of how long it would take an 18-month-old to make such a huge change in his life. In reality, it is the first thing that I was actively teaching him, and of course it is going to take time. The first day was an absolute disaster. Everything went on the floor, and by the time that Ben was in bed at night and my husband and I actually stopped to talk about what we'd experienced, we were both completely shell-shocked. But actually the next day, when we'd kind of gathered our thoughts and adjusted our expectations a little bit, it was far more successful. On the 3rd day of potty training, I had a pre-planned day out with one of my friends which she'd given me for her birthday, so I was actually away for the whole morning and pretty much left Thomas to it. Believe it or not, this was the day that we had the most initial success, and I think a lot of that is down to the fact that there weren't 2 of us putting so much pressure and prompting Ben continuously to use the potty. So ultimately Ben pretty much got it when only Thomas was with him for the morning. By the end of the 3rd day, we had seen considerable progress and we decided to add in trousers. We did see more accidents and it was a learning process again when there were trousers involved, but we did see progress over the course of some time. One of the things that we specifically found difficult at the very start was getting Ben to stay on the potty for a prolonged period of time. He didn't want to leave his toys, he didn't want to stop playing in order to go to the potty. So my top tip here is to have a huge stack of books at the side of the potty, and we could just keep reading to him until he'd managed to go in the potty. And also sticker books were great at keeping him in one place and engaged, doing something while he was on the potty. We were probably around 2.5 to 3 weeks into the process before we introduced underwear, and it was about that point that we started to see consistent accident-free days. Around 4 weeks in, we experienced a regression and I was genuinely devastated. I had really felt like we were making progress, that we were getting somewhere, and then it was like going all the way back to square one. We were at a friend's house and Ben had an accident, and then from that point on it was almost like he didn't care anymore. He wasn't telling us when he needed to go to the potty. So we made the decision to go all the way back to block 1 and have a naked day and start again from there. Obviously, it was a much quicker process starting off from this point of the regression second time round. We got to where we had been much more quickly. But over the past couple of months, we have had other hurdles that we've had to overcome. So for example, Ben had a bit of a sore tummy and we had to overcome that, where basically he got no warning that he had to go to the toilet. Also now, we definitely have to work on him being able to hold his pee in for longer. So when Ben tells us that he needs to go, we currently have about a 10 to 15 second window where we need to get him to a potty as fast as we can. And when we're out and about, that's obviously much more difficult, and we have had a few accidents, for example, in the car. One thing that I would recommend is that we have a car seat cover just to protect it, and that's worked really well. We are still far from being perfectly potty trained, but we have made some huge progress over the past few months. We still have some accidents if, for example, Ben is completely engrossed in play and doesn't want to leave what he's doing, but now he is independently going to the potty. He started to push down his trousers and pull them up by himself, so we really feel like we're getting somewhere with it now. Ben is also not yet night trained. He still does wear a nappy through the night, but most mornings he wakes up dry. We actually plan to tackle the night training when we move house at the end of lockdown, when we'll move Ben from his crib into a toddler bed. What were the benefits for us of potty training at 18 months? Please bear in mind that I have never potty trained an older toddler, so Ben being potty trained at 18 months is my only point of reference. Firstly, I would say that we had absolutely no resistance from Ben. We had no refusal to go in the potty, we had no holding pure poo, absolutely no embarrassment, and also Ben has not yet hit the so-called terrible twos, although I really hate that term, so we had no battle of wills over using the toilet. Secondly, we are now out of daytime nappies, which is amazing. Like I said earlier, Ben used cloth nappies, so that's way less washing for me. But if you have a toddler in disposable nappies, then that's also much less cost. And finally, Ben now seems so independent and grown up, and there's been a massive sense of accomplishment for him in having achieved such a massive toddler milestone. And the downside of potty training at 18 months, firstly, I would say that you definitely have to invest quite a lot of time. Although it's really hard for me to say whether that will be less time with an older toddler than it is for a toddler at 18 months. At 18 months, Ben also had limited communication, and the process has become a lot easier as we've been going along, and he's becoming more and more verbal. Also, when we started, he definitely needed a lot more help to manipulate his clothes than an older toddler would, so it's been a learning process over time for him as well to take down and pull up his trousers. Hilariously, we've also found it really difficult to get trousers to fit Ben since he's been potty trained. Obviously, trousers made for his age group are made to have a pretty bulky nappy underneath, so we actually had to go down a size of trousers, and he's still in 12 to 18 trousers. There is also a huge consideration in that it becomes a lot more difficult in general being out and about than it is with a toddler in nappies. Instead of just having change of nappies, we now carry a potty and changes of clothes everywhere, so we have far more to take. One hilarious example of this is a few months ago when we went hiking. I actually made a video of that, so I'll make sure I link that down below in case you want to check that one out as well. But we had about an hour and a half in the car to get there. On the way there, Ben told us he needed to go to the toilet, but we were on the motorway, so we couldn't pull over straight away. So we had had 2 accidents by the time we actually arrived at the mountain and no more changes of clothes. Luckily, the rest of the day went swimmingly without any problems, so we were okay. But we did have to kind of rethink how we did things as well. We had to work out when we were going to stop, when we were going to suggest that he uses the potty. So there's a lot of considerations that definitely weren't there when he was still in nappies. I would also say that you should choose your moment for this very wisely. Obviously, every toddler is different, and some 18-month-olds I am sure train really quickly, but obviously we experienced something a little bit different. But I wouldn't potty train right before I was going on holiday or before making a long journey, because it does require a bit of time and practice makes perfect. Would I potty train again at 18 months? I can honestly say yes, I would. I think that no matter when you potty train, it's always going to be a learning process for both you and the toddler. And now I'm really happy that overall that potty training process is behind us. I would also say that when it comes to potty training early, you know your child best, and if they're showing an interest in using the toilet, I would recommend going with it. Now, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. I upload videos about toddler parenting every Tuesday and Friday. I hope this video has helped to paint a realistic picture of what it looks like to potty train an 18-month-old and give you the inspiration or not to try and potty train early. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you'll join me again in a future video. Bye bye! Oh, show me your potty.
Show me. There.
Oh, there's your potty.
Toilet.
And that's the toilet, yeah?
Mommy.
That's where Mummy goes to the toilet, you're right.
Daddy.
And Daddy goes to the toilet there. Where do you go to the toilet?
There.
What's that?
Potty.
A potty?
Henna.
You sit on it?
Yeah.
Can you show me?
Show me.
Oh, like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then what do you do? A pee. Oh.
Pop.
Or a pop.